told you so.
That's
I
funny.
tell you, it gets me every time. Because this is this Zoom is from my university, so it's official or something. But yeah, we are recording. Welcome everybody to the 6th episode of Izzy's Hangouts. Today we have Alexa Tarantino, an amazing jazz performer, educator, composer, woodwind doubler. I actually met her on her series of Well-Rounded Musician, which is currently taking a break, but from around May-ish to the end of July, she was hosting these weekly Zoom sessions talking about how to be more well-rounded in the industry of jazz. So that's how I found out about her, and it's just so great to have her on this series. Thank you so much for coming, Alexa.
Of course.
Yeah, we're going to answer all of your guys' questions, and I'm going to ask some questions for Alexa myself. But before we do that, I'm going to read Alexa's bio from her website. This is her short bio, but it's actually kind of long. So guys, get your snacks, get some water.
Oh my.
Yeah, get your snacks. You guys are in for a treat. Okay, there's some names on here, so if I butcher any of these names, I'm really sorry. Alexa Tarantino is an award-winning, vibrant, young jazz saxophonist, woodwind doubler, composer, and educator. Alexa's lovely, ardent way of improvising and sharply plotted but gracefully unencumbered, straight-ahead jazz compositions establish her individual voice, which shines through as a dynamic performer and educator. Tarantino was recently named one of the top 5 alto saxophonists of 2019 by the Jazz Times Critics Poll, and her debut album, Winds of Change, peaked at number 15 on the Jazz Week charts and landed at number 79 for Jazz Week's Top 100 Records of 2019. And we have someone here, so let me just let them in. All right. Whoever just joined, I'm reading Alexa's bio. So, second paragraph, she has performed regularly as a leader and side woman in a wide variety of ensembles and genres, including the Cecile McLaurin Salvant Quintet, Cecile McLaurin Salvant's, oh my gosh, Ogress Ensemble. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong.
No worries.
Ulysses Owens Jr.'s Generation Y LSAT Quintet, co-led with baritone saxophonist Lauren Savine, Arturo O'Farrell and the Afro-Latin Jazz Orchestra, Sherry Miracle and the Diva Jazz Orchestra, the Alexa Tarantino Quartet, period. Sorry, I'm not saying this good at all. Tarantino is an artist on the Posse Tone Records label, and her debut quartet record on the Posse Tone Winds of Change, released late May 2019, featuring Christian Sands on piano, Joe Martin on bass, and Ruby Royston on drums, with Nick Finzer on trombone. Her next quartet album will be released on May 2020, which already happened. You guys should check it out. Clarity, really great album. You guys should check it out. Tarantino is currently on faculty for Jazz at Lincoln Center's youth programs, high school, Jazz Academy, Let Freedom Swing / Jazz for Young People, and represents the organization as a clinician and educator for various schools, festivals, and workshops. She holds a master's degree in jazz studies from the Juilliard School and bachelor's degrees in jazz saxophone performance and music education from the Eastman School of Music. Alexa is founder and director of the Rockport Jazz Workshop at Rockport, Massachusetts. And Alexa Tarantino is a Vendoran artist and Yamaha performing artist. Oh my goodness, Alexa, you have so many achievements and stuff. That's awesome. You guys can unmute your mics. Give a big round of applause for Alexa Tarantino.
Oh my goodness. You do not need to do that, but that's very sweet. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming, Alexa. It's so great to have you here. And I guess, my first question for you to kick things off, when you do your well-rounded musician, you always ask people, what have you been up to since quarantine? How do you stay well-rounded? So I'm curious, what have you been up to recently, and how are you staying well-rounded in this time?
Good question. Got to make sure I'm practicing what I preach. So, let's see. In the beginning of quarantine, I was just getting adjusted, I guess, to being off of the road because I had quite a bit of touring that was canceled from March through actually next March, which is kind of crazy. And so immediately, actually, Stephen Feifke, pianist, who I think most of you are familiar with, pianist and composer, we started these quarantine concerts. So we have been playing for 23 Sunday nights now in a row, every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern. But the good news is if you aren't on Eastern time, all of the concerts are actually archived on the website, so you can catch, even just the first one or the last one or all of them if you want to be hardcore. So that is actually, I can leave the link for those here if anyone is interested. And actually this month we've opened up the paywall. So usually they're $5 to attend the concerts, and this month they're free, and we are also cross-posting like onto Facebook and partnering with other organizations. So through those, we've donated 25% of proceeds to organizations like Black Lives Matter movement and jazz musician relief funds and all of those things. So we did that, and then some of you are familiar with A Step Ahead, which is a platform that we started for some educational offerings. So we had a lot of you at our awesome Summer Jazz Online program. We just launched After School Online, which is 5 weekly masterclasses happening on Wednesdays, and it's on the website, A Step Ahead jazz.com, and so we're doing a themed masterclass on different topics every week. So whether or not you attended Summer Jazz Online, it's geared towards intermediate and advanced students looking to improve their theory and improvisation chops. And we also have like classroom rates available for people like for a full like class from a school to attend. So that was, we've been doing that. And for my own stuff, I released my record, as Izzy mentioned, Clarity, which is available on streaming platforms, and just been doing a lot of private teaching, a lot of consulting. Like I do career consultations via Zoom, and I'm actually about to go into the studio to make my next record in a couple of weeks. So right now I'm like cramming to write a bunch of new music.
Oh, so exciting though. I didn't know you were working on a new record. That's so
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, awesome. I only attended one of those concerts, but it was just really great. You guys should all check those out with Alexa Quarantino and Stephen Locke and Five Key.
Our alter egos, our quarantine alter egos.
Yes, exactly. And Alexa briefly, oh my gosh, I cannot talk today. Alexa briefly mentioned her career consulting. It's called Ask Alexa. I did it myself. I highly recommend it for those who really want to get ahead in the industry and just want some tips from someone who's been doing it for years and years and years. It was a fantastic session. You get to talk with Alexa one-on-one. And that's how I actually invited her to do this. So, it opens a ton of doors. Yeah, so that's awesome, Alexa. Definitely check out her stuff, you guys. She put it in the chat. And my big question for you in regards to your playing is, you've gotten degrees from Eastman and the Juilliard School, and I'm sure you've met a lot of teachers and professors. Which, if there is one, is there a teacher that influenced you the most in your playing or in your teaching?
That's a great question. I think, automatically, I'm thinking about my saxophone teacher from Eastman. His name is Charles Pillow, and he has been teaching jazz saxophone there since, I guess, my sophomore or junior year, maybe, of Eastman, and that was about 2012, 2011 or 2012. And he is very active in New York. He plays on Broadway. He used to tour and perform with people like Maria Schneider and all these bands that I was just such a fan of. And so I loved his approach. I loved how he played. I love that he was so versatile and had such unique sounds on all of these other instruments, like in woodwind doubling. And I also loved that he was a composer and obviously an educator. So I mean, seemed very well-rounded, now that I say it all out loud. So he really influenced me, I would say, like, most specifically just as a saxophonist and a jazz musician and an improviser. So I'm really grateful to him for that. And then one other person that comes to mind is Frank Kimbrough, who's a pianist, and he was one of my teachers at Juilliard. And I think really taught me a lot about life and living a creative life and living an art, like an artist's life, and balancing that with, all of the pressures of daily life and life in New York City, and really giving your art and your music the focus and attention that it needs to grow. So I learned a lot from him, and he plays all over New York as well with people like Maria Schneider and his own groups. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And I guess a question that perfectly ties into what you're talking about is, I don't know if everyone here plays jazz. I know Maggie does, but, I'm sure all of us, we want to be professionals. We want to be in the industry. We want to be in the scene. And for most of us, that's in New York. You live there. So, what has your experience been, being a jazz musician in New York? And like, what advice would you give to anyone who wants to kind of follow that path?
So I moved to New York about 5 years ago, and it has been totally amazing, and also totally difficult at times. It's a very different place than, for somebody who grew up in the suburbs, just geographically, like with the subway system and, all the high rises and blah, 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 but small apartment living. It's a very different experience, but there's something about the energy in New York that is just so incredible and one of a kind. The energy from everybody, everybody's just working so hard and hustling and making things happen and just moving and all the time. It's definitely nice to get out of New York and to slow down a little bit, but I would say the jazz and arts community is just so vibrant, that it really encourages you and pushes you to be your best all the time. So I've been very lucky, that I was able to start working right away when I moved to New York. I know a lot of people have so many different stories, but I feel very fortunate to have picked up the gigs that I picked up and work with the people that I work with.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know, like being in New York in general, it can be a little scary, especially in jazz, because the scene, it's just like some people are just, set in stone. It can be kind of hard to get in that scene. So that's just really amazing that you were able to, do that yourself. You went to Juilliard and you kind of already got that credibility from going to Juilliard and those experiences. So you were able to, I'm sure that really helped you a lot as far as getting in the New York scene, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I actually had already lived in New York for about 3 years or 2 years before I decided to attend Juilliard. So the first 2 years were kind of like me figuring it out on my own, making my own connections, kind of like from the ground up. And then Juilliard absolutely helped to grow the network and strengthen the network and meet people that maybe I would not have been able to meet otherwise.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm sorry if you hear background noise. This dorm is not, you
Oh
know,
no, I don't, it's fine. I don't hear anything. I think I probably have some too.
okay. Yeah, no, there's like the air goes on like every couple minutes. So it's
No
anyway.
worries.
Um, let's take a question from Instagram. We have it's Minnie's question actually. From Instagram. She put down what is your favorite place to have traveled to or toured?
Ooh, I love that question, Minnie. So I haven't been to Australia yet. I hope one day I will get there. But my favorite place is always Italy. I just love Italy so much. I'm Italian, so I love the food, I love the language, I love the places, I love the little piazzas, I love the people. And the one time I really performed there, I performed there twice, but the first time I performed there was really just like a big moment for me. It was at the Umbria Jazz Festival, which is like just one of the best jazz festivals in Europe. And it was with this large group, and we were just in this beautiful old theater, and we were playing 11:30 p.m. shows that were sold out every night to this huge theater. And we would the audience, like European audiences, just love jazz, and so we would do like three encores every night. The people would just be like clapping and clapping and clapping and clapping and clapping, and so we would play from like 11:30 to like 2 a.m. because there would be so many. It was just incredible. It was the most like electric I've ever felt on stage. So I would say Italy, and I think other than that, I really enjoyed time in Portugal, and I really enjoyed my time in Abu Dhabi as well.
You went to, oh my gosh, you went there? That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You know, I travel a lot and I've never been to any of those three places. So that's definitely on my bucket list.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. That you've been able to go to all those places. And just a little plug for Alexa. Alexa has a travel blog. You guys should check it out. I believe it's called Alexa Abroad. Um,
Yes. Yeah, that's right. It's so funny because I had been meaning to launch it for so long, and then it turned out that the only time I had to launch it was in COVID when I was not able to travel. But I did get 3 posts up there of just like some personal trips and some like an educational trip, and I'm hoping to do more because I love taking pictures of travels, sharing stories of the venues that I stay at or the hotels. Some of the hotels are just so beautiful and historic. So I just thought it would be fun to kind of blend my two passions of jazz and also my traveling.
Yeah, that's so perfect, honestly. And I just dropped the link in the chat for anyone who wants to check out Alexa's travel blog. Like she said, she has 3 posts up there. They're really great. I love these posts. You know, the pictures and everything. It's just great. And I'm looking at her website right now. There's actually some interesting stuff here: jazz venue guide and product picks. So check those out too. That sounds really cool. Um, yeah, so we just had someone join us, TJ. You can unmute yourself and say hi to Alexa if you
Hi,
want.
DJ. Hi.
So nice to see you. If you
Hi,
have any
Taylor. I
questions
haven't said
for
hi
her,
to Taylor yet.
just drop it in the chat. Sorry, Alexa, I kind of interrupted you.
No worries. All are welcome to jump in.
Sorry, I was still
Yeah,
muted.
No
Hi.
worries.
okay. Happy to have you here. Remember, guys, if you ever want to say something to Alexa, this is not just us preaching. You can unmute yourselves and talk. Um, and you know, I just have one question personally before we can dive into everyone else's questions. Um, you know, we kind of talked about your like you in the past. You know, you went on your trips, you got degrees, etc. But what I'm really interested in my gosh, I cannot talk today, is, you know, what are you excited for in the future of jazz or education or you personally?
Let's see. Well, I'm excited to hopefully just get to play music with people in real life again. So I'm looking forward to like I guess I'm hoping that, everybody will once that returns, I'm hoping that will, that I'll remember to be grateful for that and stay grateful for that. And I hope that will bring all of us that make music together sort of a renewed like joy and appreciation for what we do. And I am excited to also see like how this virtual stuff affects the industry in the long term. I think, I'm brainstorming some new educational offerings. I'm sort of like trying to develop my own app with like my educational videos, and just like I just want to I love meeting people like all over the world. Like I think it's so awesome that Minnie's tuning in from Australia, and that like Xander and Minnie and you were all part of A Step Ahead, and maybe others here. I'm sorry if I'm not recognizing your names, but it's just so awesome to be able to connect with all of you just like by pressing a button. Whereas, normally it could cost thousands of dollars for me to get to you. So it's just really cool. And ultimately, I just want to help people. And so I'd love to leave time. It could be now or it could be later. I'd love to like leave time to hear from all of you in terms of like what you're really looking for when you're going online for jazz or music education, and like what you'd love to see and what you'd love to hear about. And yeah, just try to do my best to make that happen and help however I can.
Yeah, let's do that. You know, I think, you know, definitely I agree that I'm interested to see in the future after COVID if all these online things will stick around, because it can be incredibly helpful. You know, I wouldn't be able to do this with you outside of Zoom. Like I would either have to fly to New York or have you to fly down to Miami, which, you know, I fly for free, but you would have to, or anyone would have to like pay again, like hundreds, thousands of dollars. So it's just a really interesting method. Someone who I forgot to mention to you, Taylor, joined us. They're a percussionist. studying music education at, I forgot what school. I'm sorry. University of something.
New Hampshire.
University of New
awesome.
Hampshire. Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much for joining, Taylor. Yeah, you know what? I've never done this, but let's circle around the room and let's all share with Alexa, what we're interested and excited about in the future. I think that'll be really interesting. And I'll just call out your guys' names in the order on my Zoom. Maggie, you want to be our first
Hi,
person?
Maggie.
Hi, Alexa. It's so nice to meet you. I'm trying to think, just like in the future, I'm just really looking forward to all the new possibilities. Like I thought like what you did with a step ahead was such a cool program. So maybe just kind of like branching off of that into like kind of like digging into maybe even like composition classes of like even like where to get started when you compose and like kind of the steps to go through it in order to like create great virtual recordings.
Oh, very cool. Okay, I like that. I'm going to take some notes.
Yeah, I like that too. That's awesome.
Awesome. Thank you, Alexa.
Yeah, thanks, Maggie.
Yeah, that's awesome, Maggie. I agree 100%. Like a Step Ahead Jazz is pretty new, but it's already doing really awesome as far as their classes and the guests that Alexa has brought in, and I'm sure that it has a really bright future ahead. It's after school online, and I think there's something else coming as well that I saw on their website, Audition Academy. I don't know if that's still happening. That sounds really interesting for any of you guys that are high school seniors or even in college that are doing maybe competitions or stuff like that. That's a really exciting opportunity. So who is next? Xander, you want to talk to Alexa? What are you excited about in the future?
Hi, Xander.
Hey Alexa, how's it going?
Good. Thanks for joining. How are you?
Doing well. Yeah, first of all, I'm just really excited to see people playing in ensembles again, kind of just like returning to just that normal music. I think like jazz history would be super cool, or like jazz arrangement. Just kind of like learning like where we can go in the future and kind of where we were in the past would be really fun.
Nice.
Those are some great ideas. Oh my God.
Yeah.
You guys are awesome. Yeah.
Very cool.
I will say, I played with an ensemble yesterday in person, with proper social distancing concerns and everything. And it's just so like refreshing. Seriously. Once you get the chance to do it in person, it's so refreshing to be able to actually hear live music. Instead of just playing with like a Jamie Aebersold or something, it's just so refreshing to be able to communicate with everybody in the ensemble through music. So that it's really awesome. And I'm sure that's going to come soon. Maggie, I'm sure at Frost, where we are right now, you already had a rehearsal. So I'm sure you're already aware of, that great feeling that it is to be able to play in person. It's just really fantastic. So who is next on my Zoom? Taylor, do you want to talk to Alexa for a second?
Hi, Taylor. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Well,
good. Nice to meet you.
It's really nice to meet you. I guess what I'm looking forward to, or something that I hope stays the same, is seeing these internet pathways of meeting and doing education as valid.
Oh, wait, hang on, Taylor. There we go.
There we go. I don't know if everyone else here feels the same, but I used to have this idea in my head that like, oh, it's only like an online webinar. It's not gonna do as much for me as like if someone were to come on campus and do a masterclass. But I don't think that's true, especially not now.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I have a question for you and for everybody. Like, what is your favorite, I guess, what is the medium that you gravitate most towards, like with these online things? Like, is it the Zoom calls? Is it like buying somebody's PDF book? Is it ebook? Is it like taking a lesson with someone? Is it using an app? Like, what do you feel like is helping you the most as you're like trying to keep the music going during this time? Or you guys can just type it in or shout it out if you've been using anything at all.
Well, I feel like I'm on the spot, but I've been really using Zoom. My university kind of shifted to using Zoom. The plan is if we stay remote to continue using Zoom. I find it more interactive than if someone was to go live on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I think having my camera on keeps me accountable. You know, like if it's on YouTube or if I don't have my camera on, I can just go into another tab
Mm-hmm.
and do anything else.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But yeah, I was able to take lessons with some people I would not have been able to over Zoom
Yep.
this summer.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's
Awesome.
the silver lining, like same here. I've had lessons with people like, I talked with Alexa and I had a lesson with Wycliffe Gordon. Those people, you normally can't see them in person unless, make special like arrangements. But, that's the silver lining. You get to meet people that you normally wouldn't be able to meet in person. So that's really great. And I guess since I'm already talking, to answer your question, Alexa, of course, I've been primarily using Zoom. My university is hybrid, so some of my classes are on Zoom. So we've been using that. And of course, since quarantine, I've been doing stuff like, well-rounded musician and all these Zoom events that have been going on from different organizations. But, I've also, kind of built up my digital collection of like PDFs and things from other people. I kind of have an app where I keep all that those musical PDFs and notes and stuff. And if you all follow my page, you've seen my notes that I take from like classes and well-rounded musician and everything else. So I've been really starting to do that since quarantine, digital note taking. And it's just really helpful because when you learn a lot of stuff like from A Step Ahead, Summer Jazz Online, like you don't want to forget it. That's content isn't available forever. So just visually writing out the content in a way that's good for me really, really helps to retain the information.
Yeah, I saw those notes. Was that was on your iPad?
Yeah, it was on my iPad.
It was amazing. Was that just on like the Notes app?
I use GoodNotes 5, which is it's paid, but it's a fantastic app.
That's amazing. I just got an iPad and I'm like geeking out over what to do with it. So that's
It'll be
very
the best
cool.
investment of your life. Trust me.
Yay.
It's really great. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, well, I'd love to hear like what other people are finding most effective virtually.
Yeah, how about we start with TJ? You haven't talked a little bit in a little bit.
Hi, TJ.
Hi Alexa, it's nice to meet you.
You
Yeah,
too.
I've been like, I've been following you on Instagram for a while and just like hearing your content with Steven and everything. And yeah, I'm a huge fan, even though I'm not uh, mainly a jazz player.
Thank you. That means a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I guess what I'm excited for, kind of similar to what everybody else said, just being in person again in the future. 'Cause like I actually was in a pit in an outdoor pit recently for an outdoor musical, and like it was again just a breath of fresh air. Sorry. Wow,
Right.
I can't talk.
No, that's okay.
But yeah, it was a really fun experience, and kind of reminded me of like the good old days. So I'm hoping that will be uh, coming again soon as well.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Very cool.
Yeah, that's cool that you guys are able to do that outdoor musical. I know that similarly, Harvard did a musical through Zoom, which is really interesting.
Oh
To see
yeah,
that people are still making content and music, even during this time, to see everyone's work out there is just really amazing. And
absolutely.
Maggie put something in the chat. She texted me that she had to leave early. So she said in the chat, "Hi everyone, it was so nice to meet all of you and to meet you, Alexa. I wish you all the best, and you have been doing such incredible things with virtual jazz education. Thank you so much."
Nice. Thanks, Maggie. Um, Minnie, let's hear from you.
Sure. I really love watching your Zoom calls, like the well-rounded musician, and I love watching those. And I find that really inspiring just to be able to hear you talk with other professional musicians, and yeah, talk about music when we can't really go out and play at the moment.
Right.
Yeah, and I also love the chance just to be able to get private lessons from people that I would never be able to because suddenly they have free time. And yeah, that's been really exciting.
Nice. Awesome. I love it. And so what time is it there?
It's 9:30 a.m.
Oh wow.
Wow. Okay, good. Okay, so it's not terrible.
No.
Like, remember, Alexa, that one guest on
Anya, I
person
know.
who did it,
Yeah.
Summer Jazz Online, that was joining from, like, what was it?
Yeah, she was joining from New Delhi, India, and it was like 3 a.m. or something.
Oh my
So
gosh.
awesome. Yeah, Anya and Minnie were, I think, my two like consistent international players, which was really awesome.
That's so cool. All right. Did I call on Xander yet? I don't remember.
Yes, yeah, we think we got everybody. It's so awesome.
everybody.
Thanks for being willing to like have me put you on the spot. It's awesome because all the Zoom calls that I do are just talking at the screen. So it's nice to actually like talk to the people that I'm talking to.
Yeah, exactly. That's my whole motivation behind doing this series is, we all know that Alexa is an amazing musician and educator, but, don't be afraid to reach out to her. Like, she's like seriously one of the kindest, nicest, musicians that I've been able to talk to. So just like, don't be afraid, that's why they're here.
Thanks.
Yeah. So Alexa, are you ready for the speed round of Q&As from our audience?
Yes. Let's do it.
So first off, I have a question from Instagram. Maggie dropped a question earlier today. She asks, how was the transition of being out of grad school into being a performing artist impact your artistic journey? And and is there any suggestions of getting into more interdisciplinary art forms?
Ooh, I feel like have I talked about this? Did Maggie do a step ahead?
Huh?
Did Maggie do a step ahead?
No.
Oh, okay. So I just want to make sure that I don't say the same information. So my transition from grad school to New York, it's interesting. I can't really fully answer that question because, like I said, I started in New York first and then I joined grad school. So I actually was working and performing and like gigging and touring while I was in school, which was a really difficult thing to balance because there was this element of, not wanting to say no to any gig because I was still trying to make it in New York. And then also this element of, well, I'm paying partly for an education at Juilliard and really wanted to make the most of my time there and wanted to put my best foot forward and wanted to really give my 110%, especially because it was Juilliard. And like growing up, I never ever would have even dreamed that I could have been studying there. So it was a really hard balance. And I think, for anybody that finds themselves in that situation, I would say if you can, to always choose school over the gigs, because the gigs will come back. The gigs will be there for you when you get out of school, but school is such a once in a lifetime opportunity to be like kind of in this bubble where you don't have so many external responsibilities and your job is really to focus on your creativity and your skill set. So that's my advice there. I think if you are transitioning from that school bubble to the real world, being prepared professionally, like with those materials that I discuss in the Well-Rounded Musician, is really important. Like knowing your mission statement, having some bios available, building an online presence with a website and social media, having a repertoire, like knowing your repertoire really well so that when you get on a jam session or if you get to I'm trying to think of like the classical equipment. If you get to a festival perhaps, and you're even just going to kind of impromptu play with some people, like knowing if you are like a tuba player, like knowing the most important, I can't think of the most important tuba excerpts, but like having them down for like when you're about to go to a festival or an audition setting. And for jazz, like knowing 30 to 50 jazz standards just like really well. I mean, more is better, but I would say 30 to 50, and making sure you know like a handful of ballads that are really popular, know a handful of up-tempo swing, of Latin tunes, like make sure you're hitting all the the skills that you might get called for. And yeah, I think that's my advice for that transition. And then my advice for interdisciplinary forms and getting involved with other mediums of art, dream big and like just make it happen. I mean, I have always wanted to paint and I still haven't done it. And even when COVID hit, I was like, I'm going to paint. And I still have to go out and order something, but I like really want to paint just like to music and just see what happens, you know? And for so long, I was such a purist, like with jazz and saxophone, and I was in the practice room like 8 hours a day, and I was like, I have to do these scales and this and this and this and this and this, and that's really, really great experience. But then I also learned that like life helps to provide a lot of creative experience and inspiration as well. So even just reading books that like stimulate, you know, a certain part of my brain, studying a language that I'm interested in, even learning how to cook, learning how to do a new skill, like learning how to garden, like all these things that I've been doing in COVID have actually provided me with such inspiration to write different types of music. So I would say get involved and explore all these different mediums, whether it's dance, whether it's sculpture, whether it's puzzles, and just like see what you can do. Like bring your passions together. If you're passionate about something other as well, other than music, see how you can fuse them.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, like you said, how different art forms can connect to each other. You know, speaking from a personal perspective, I used to do art for a very long time, and then I kind of quit it to do music, but now I'm starting to bring it back, and just seeing those connections is just really eye-opening. And you know, going off what Alexa said, you know, I think we're all kind of guilty of maybe dropping something that we used to love doing to do music, because you know, music is a big commitment as far as time and even money. You know, it's a big commitment. But you know, once you kind of get into the swing of things, I think we can all like bring back maybe our childhood passions or any kind of passion that we enjoy, that we like to do, besides music, because going full circle, it'll make us more well-rounded. Wow. Yeah, definitely.
Nice.
Yeah, so thank you so much for answering that, Alexa. And now we are going to open the floor for any questions from our 4-person audience. If you guys have any questions, you can unmute yourselves, fight to see who's going to talk first, and ask away.
Yeah, I've got a question. How do you go about creating a really effective practice routine? Because I feel like there's just so much I need to practice. It just feels a bit overwhelming. How would you go about kind of planning that all out?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there are different people like to practice in different ways. In college, I was a very methodical practicer. So I had a list of different things I wanted to hit and how many minutes I was going to spend on them. And now I actually try to combine that with like more of like just like a flowing free situation where I'm just like, I'm going to just play for 30 minutes. Like, I'm not going to be so strict with myself. So I'll talk about the first portion first. I'll talk about the methodical side of things. So for me on saxophone, I know that, you know, I sort of created like the ideal routine for myself, like the ideal day. When I was studying in conservatory, I was like, okay, it would be amazing if I could do all of these things. And so I listed long tones, overtones, altissimo practice, scales, patterns, playing something in all 12 keys, working on 2-5-1s, playing a jazz standard, playing something on flute, playing something on clarinet. And so I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, this is so much fun. Right. So, and then I said, okay, well, you know, a little bit every day is better than just like 7 hours on a Saturday. So when I was really had a very strict schedule in college, I knew that, you know, I had a class at 8:30, so I could get some good practicing in realistically from like 7:30 to 8:20 or 7:30 to 8:15. So then I thought to myself, okay, I'll do 10 minutes of long tones, 10 minutes of overtones, 10 minutes of altissimo, and whatever, you know, like, and then maybe 15 minutes of scales. And so that was all 7:30 to 8:15. And I had it in my, you know, in my notebook that I brought with me for practicing, and I would use my timer for each of those sections, like on my iPhone, and I would take notes on what it was that I did so that the next day I could pick up where I left off. So I'm not just playing a C major scale for 15 minutes every day. You know, I'm like, okay, I practiced that in thirds, and now I'll practice this. Like in 15 minutes now, I might go through all 12 keys of scales in various intervals, you know, practice things in thirds or fourths or fifths, or I'll practice moving from relative minors to relative majors. Or I'll just practice even just playing through scales, jumping different intervals, like my G, then my C, then my F, like just going around and like playing all in fourths. And that's different from what I said earlier. I don't want to confuse
Yep.
practicing a major scale in fourths. So like instead of do, mi, re, fa, mi, so, fa, la, so, ti, la, do, ti, re, do.
Oh my
Do,
gosh, you can do
fa,
that?
mi, do, ti, la, fa, ti, so. That's in fourth. And then
Mm.
it's do, so, re, la, mi, ti, right? So that's what I meant there.
Cool.
So, and then I just looked at my school schedule and I just plugged in little things. Like I made sure I had my meals plugged in, and it was just all very regimented around my course schedule, because that's what I needed to do at the time. Because I had friends who would practice at like 8 o'clock till 11 o'clock, right when everything ended at the end of the day, college day. But for me, that's like when I wanted to rest and I wanted to go to the gym and I wanted to eat dinner and socialize. And I just felt like, why would I hang out in the hallway for 30 minutes between classes killing time when I'm already in like school mindset and I have my saxophone with me and I can just get it done during the day? So that was my college mindset there. And I'm happy to talk with you more mini privately if you want more suggestions, or if you want to talk about anything further. And then I would say, like, now I just really try to make sure for me that I just play every day, because sometimes with all this computer stuff and my brainstorming projects and business ideas, I can actually get pretty sidetracked. So now I try to remember like the joy in playing. And so I might say to myself, okay, I'm going to do 30 minutes of like regimented stuff. So that might be the long tones, that might be the scales, that might be overtones and altissimo practice. And that stuff does feel fun to me a lot of the time. Sometimes it does not feel fun. And then I'll say maybe another 30 minutes of like the fun stuff, which for me, coming up with a little lick and taking it through all 12 keys is fun. Because every day that I do that, I get better at it. It gets easier. I'll make up every day. I try to play something in all 12 keys. So I might even just make up a little tiny lick, like ba ba doo ba da, just something even that tiny, and slowly take it through all the keys. Or it might be something something longer that might take me a little bit longer. And sometimes I put like drones on, or I'll even like sit near the window and like play along, like I'm hearing birds like hum a certain pitch. I'll kind of like do that. I really like to go on Spotify and put on the spa music playlists.
Yeah.
And I'll just like improvise over those.
Cool.
That's so, I love that.
So I try to give myself like little kid fun free playtime.
Yeah, that's so
Awesome. Thank
cool.
you.
I think that's like a big motivation too. Like to be able to, you know, just like break free from the typical practice for a little bit and just take time to do something that you find that motivates you. I love that. And your solfege is incredible. Oh my god.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, I'm in the process of like learning it right now. Like I'm taking a course with Berkeley that's ear training, and we learn solfege. And it's hard. It's really hard.
Who's your teacher?
It's Alan Chase. He's the head of the Berkeley ear training department. Yeah.
Awesome.
It's really awesome. Really great class. But yeah, does anyone else have any other questions? We got to wrap things up in a couple minutes because I have to run to an ensemble class at 8:05. So if anyone has any questions, you can just unmute your mics.
I'll have something to say. What are your favorite standards to play?
Ooh.
That's a really good question. Well, I could tell you which ones are the most important ones that you should know, but I'm gonna stick with your question. I'm gonna tell you my favorite ones. So my favorite ones, I love to play East of the Sun. I love to play Confirmation, which is like a bebop standard, Charlie Parker. I love to play I Hear a Rhapsody, which is famously recorded by John Coltrane. I love to play I'll Remember April. I love to play I Remember You. I love to play Long Ago and Far Away, which is a lesser played Jerome Kern song. Um, and I like lesser known ballads too, like Blame It on My Youth or You've Changed or In the Wee Small Hours of the Morning. Not lesser known, but lesser performed, I should say.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I mean, I myself am also like a saxophonist. Like I did it on the side when I was uh like doing horn. I had to like focus on horn more because of college, but I'm always interested in hearing like um other like actual jazz musicians like say what their favorite standards are, because I mean I know like the standards, but like yeah, I mean like it's
Yeah.
interesting to hear like all the different ones. So that's
It's interesting because like people always say the top 10 jazz tunes that you should know, you know, or like the ones that you really should know, like Body and Soul and all that stuff. But it's really fun to hear what people's like signature tunes are.
Yeah,
So great
great
question.
question.
Thanks, DJ.
thank you.
Really great question and really great answer. Yeah, does anyone else have any questions?
Ooh, yeah, I have a question.
All right, ask away.
Yeah. So Alexa, you have like such a great social media presence. And just like it feels really connected. And I was wondering how you kind of like manage that with like practicing and gigs, and like do you have like a schedule, or kind of what techniques do you use for that?
Thank you. That's a great question. I appreciate it, Xander. Thanks for checking it out. So I do try to post pretty frequently because I feel like now that everybody's home and on their devices, I kind of like want to connect with the people that are following me and show my appreciation for that. And so I find that I don't know, it's fun, but it can also be overwhelming. And so I used to have a really like regimented schedule where I tried to do something on like a specific thing on a Monday and a specific thing on a Wednesday. And now during COVID, I'm kind of just like floating through and trying to just make sure that I'm keeping people aware of what I'm doing online so that people can join, and trying to keep people aware of if I'm releasing any new content and things like that. And also just trying to show my gratitude to like today, BAM Cases, my saxophone case company, like I posted something for them because they sent me a mask. You know, they sent me the masks that they're making, and so just like also like a reminder to wear a mask. You know, so just like fun things like that. So if you're trying to build up your presence or you're trying to build up your accounts, I would say it's definitely good to start with a schedule. Nothing too crazy. You don't want to spend more time on it than you're spending on your instrument, but again, if you can just spend like 15 or 20 minutes and just set your timer so you don't scroll beyond that amount of time, that's great. And one tip that I can give you is I use a Dropbox folder to organize like all of the photos and all of the videos that I receive, like from gigs or teaching events or whatever, my travels. I throw them all into this folder and I organize them so that when I feel like doing a throwback Thursday post, or if I'm doing a gig with a certain person and it would be fun to post a picture of us from 5 years ago, you know, I can go in and find all that. So I'm not just like having to figure out a quick photo or take a selfie or like run to the backyard and the good lighting. You know, I generally like have it all kind of in my computer.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, there's some really great tips. Thanks for the question, and thanks, Alexa, for giving us your social media tips. You know, it's such a coincidence that every session of my Hangout series we talk about social media, because it's, you know, it's the big thing now. It's how everyone's staying connected. And you know, I'm surprised that my account literally blew up because of COVID and the quarantine. You know, sticking to that schedule. Definitely agree 100%. Really helps. So we can open it up for one more question before I have to run. If anyone else has a question of any shape or form, you can unmute your mic.
I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about your transition from undergrad to graduate school. I don't recall, my internet was kind of in and out when Izzy was reading your bio, but um, or from undergrad to New York, if that's when you made that move.
That's a good question, Taylor. So yeah, I moved from Eastman to New York, and then when I was in New York, I attended Juilliard. So the transition from undergrad to like real life was pretty hard. I think that's probably the hardest transition that we all will make in our education. I think if you go directly to grad school, it's a bit easier, but I actually really appreciated like those life lessons that I learned. It was more just like, oh my God, what am I going to do with myself? Like it's the first time that you have time to yourself. It's the first time that you can kind of create your world. So I knew that I wanted to teach, so I tried to schedule and I just tried to, I kind of looked at it as a time to continue building up my resume with like real life experience. So I was trying to private teach as much as I could. I was trying to go out and see people playing and connect with them to get as many live gigs as I could. I was trying to still keep my practicing going as much as I could, but it was a really nice time to like take a day off of practicing when I wanted to, or go hang out with my friends in the afternoon when I normally might be doing something else. So it also gives you that time to explore other interests like I was talking about earlier. So I think it's definitely important when you are in your undergraduate to keep your eye on the ball, keep your eye like on the realistic item of like, what am I actually doing? Am I trying to get a job in an orchestra or a symphony? Am I trying to get a job as a teacher at a music school? Am I trying to just to be a freelance musician? Because what you want to graduate with, like you want to graduate with what you will need to succeed in whatever that is. So making sure that you're spending your time accordingly in undergrad is really important to prepare you for that transition. And it's also not a bad idea. I mean, I was also a nanny. Like when I graduated from Eastman, I took a nannying job and I nannied for one of my professor's kids almost every day. And I was too tired to practice when I came home a lot of the time. And that was kind of depressing. There were some moments where I was like, ugh, what am I doing with my life? But at the same time, like 4.5 years of Eastman was so exhausting, and like I told Minnie my practice schedule, like that was pretty insane. So it was nice to do something new and then just kind of get the inspiration back again. So I would say don't be afraid of kind of doing real life things even if they're not musical.
Thank you.
Of course. It was
Yeah,
so nice to meet you all.
Yeah, thank you all so much for coming. It is 7:55, so I do have to wrap things up. I'm sorry for the insanely short session.
No worries.
But I literally did not know until Sunday that, oh, you have a rehearsal at 8:05 p.m., so there's a hashtag reality check. That's like my theme for the year, hashtag reality check.
Yeah.
But yeah, let me do my little ending spiel. Thank you all so much for coming to the first session in season 2 of my Hangout series. Thank you so much, Alexa, for coming in and just talking with all of us. And I loved how it was so interactive with all of you guys talking. We don't normally do that, but it was just so awesome hearing all of you participating. Definitely going to do that in future sessions. I do not have a next session scheduled yet for those who are going to come back. I know TJ's in season 2, but we haven't set anything in stone yet. So just keep an eye out on social media, and that'll be announced probably within the next couple of days. And of course, a recording will be made available from this session. So I'm going to stop recording.